So I had a really cool experience this summer. I got a chance to teach 8 classes in Wichita, Kansas at FSY. It's been a long time since I've taught that many classes in such a short amount of time. 7 years to be exact at this point, since I was in a seminary classroom regularly teaching young people. And I called one of my friends who's a seminary principal in northern Utah and who does firesides, from time to time, and I asked him, what advice would you give me for building rapport quickly with these young people? Because I don't have like a semester. I don't have weeks of teaching them and getting to know them, building relationships with them. How do you build rapport with a group quickly? And he gave me some pretty good advice, and it worked like a charm. He said, for him, I like to show a picture of me in high school, something that is funny, because he grew up in the 80s, had a mullet, and they could joke around, like he gave the kids permission to laugh at him. He laughed at himself, and then he just made the point that, listen, if God can do something with this young person, He can do something with you, and starts his fireside or whatever with that. And so let me show you the pictures that I showed these youth that I've never met before and I'll probably never see again. First, I showed them this picture. Now, this picture is me as a sophomore in high school, but I have them guess because does that look like a 15-year-old to you? And I got guesses as young as 7. And when I tell them I'm a sophomore, they're like, whoa, and I'm like, I know, this young man is a decade from puberty. I mean, don't you feel bad for this guy? And then I show them this picture, and this is me as a senior. And we joke about my blonde hair and my 90s necklace, hemp necklace with ball bearings. Some kid said, aren't those pearls? And I was like, those are ball bearings. You show respect. That's cool in the 90s. And then I showed him this picture that I sent in to the First Presidency Quorum 12 with my mission papers. And boy, there's an audible gasp from the audience when I do this. And then I told them, in 2004, before most of them were born, I was an EFY counselor, and I show them this picture. And then I just tell them, listen, so, you guys get an idea of what kind of kid I was, and yet the Lord has been able to do something with me. And if He can do something with me, He can do something with you. And fortunately, the Lord brought her into my life, and I show a picture of my family. It was amazing how quickly the rapport built up between me and them. It was like I shared a part of myself. Now, you may not do something like that. That's what Shad Anderson did, because I got some pretty funny stories, and I was a pretty awkward teenager. But you've got to figure out, how do I share something with these students? And laughter and humor is a big deal for young people. They've got to know that you're not taking yourself too seriously, you're not taking them too seriously, you're not going to take the bait when they're being grumpy or teenagery, because you know who they are, you know what they're about, you know who prophets have told you they are. But you've got to invest some time. And so one of the things that's really challenging about seminary is you might feel this pressure to make sure that you are teaching from beginning to end, all the way through, just all kinds of teaching. And it is important that we have purpose in the classroom, and that students know we're not just here to waste time. Because students will, if they get a sense that you're wasting time, they'll come late or not come at all, and you'll lose them that way. It's just another way to lose them. But it is wise to start class on time, maybe with a song and a prayer, and then spend a little bit of time getting to know them, sharing something about them. One thing I've seen a teacher do is whoever's turn it was to pray, they did a little mini interview in front of the class on that student. They asked the students in the class, let's ask them 3 questions, and then I've got some questions. And every time it was somebody's turn to pray, they just got a little bit of time to share something about themselves. Good teachers know what's going on in the class with their students. They know who's in plays and who's playing sports and who's involved in different things. And so they're really keen to make sure to bring those things out at the beginning. Birthdays, things like that. I think it's always a good idea to regularly have breakfast with your students, maybe once a week or maybe once a month or whatever you decide, but just some informal gospel discussion, not a formal lesson with a plan, but just a few questions while people are eating and just being curious about what's going on in their lives. Even behavioral issues can be solved when you're just curious. When you just pull a student aside and say, hey, I'm not angry, I'm just curious, what's going on? You're not opening your scriptures, what's up? And I just want to know why when everybody else was, you weren't, and what's going on in your head. This is about rapport. This is about loving students enough to expect things of them, to share parts of yourself with them, to help them feel safe enough to share things back with you. And this is an important part of what it means to teach seminary.